moving on to my 10. This is only a 10% chance of happening, I believe, but I can be hopeful. I think that Dylan Strome will score 30 plus goals this season. Why? Because he's playing. Why are you laughing? Why are you guys laughing? He's playing
No
on.
reason whatsoever.
He's playing on a much better team. He's playing in a second line center role, and I think he'll strive. He has good wingers. I'm assuming he's going to be playing with Manta. I'm assuming he's going to be playing with Connor Sheary or Connor Brown. But the thing is, I know this looks bad because that preseason power play was not too hot. But hopefully he finds his footing there behind the net or anywhere else on our power play. And I think 30 goals is really doable. He has a wicked shot. And at this point of his career, it's do or die for him, right? And hopefully he does. And I think that's a fair 10 because, it's not a 90, but I think it's reasonable expectations considering this is also a show me year. Okay?
Yeah, I do agree that it's a confident 10%. Like that's what I was looking for too in my 10%. Honestly, Bryan knows this. Like I was texting him with every Dylan Strome update because I wanted him on the Leafs.
We got him. We take him.
Yeah, I know. And you got former Leaf Connor Brown. I don't mind it. Like he's got a hell of a shot. I know you brought up like preseason power play, but like my God, that doesn't matter. Do you know who like led the preseason in scoring once? Other than like I know like Ty Ratty did it once with the Oilers. Everyone thought Ty Ratty was going to be something, but I'll give you a real throwback. It was probably like early 2010s, maybe even like late 2000s. That like Victor Stahlberg, former Leaf Victor Stahlberg, led the preseason and scored with like 9 points over Ovechkin. Okay, so basically what I'm trying to say is it doesn't matter whatsoever what happens in the preseason.
I was using that as a negative because he was on the power play for one of our preseason games, and it might have been like the worst power play I've ever seen. Like I started to like bleed blood when I from my eyes when I cried blood when I watched it because it was like our midseason power play form, and it shouldn't be like that before the season even starts. But regardless, hopefully he does do well. Like I said, it's only a 10. David, what do you think?
Listen, 30 is a lot, but he is a player, who is. I think he's kind of due for that breakout. You use a high draft pick on somebody like him. Maybe like he hasn't shown all of his abilities, and it's difficult to play for a post dynasty Blackhawks team for all those years, especially the past couple of years with the situation going on in Chicago. It just has not been a good situation for anybody involved, and I would expect a lot of bounce back seasons for guys like Dylan Strome, guys like Kirby Dach. Like they're going to have much better seasons than they've had in the past. To put 30 goals at 10%, I think for me personally is a bit high, like just a touch high. I think it's maybe a little bit closer to a 5, but I also wouldn't put it past him either. Like, if that team still, like, you guys still you guys have a lot of pieces on there that, I'm a bit envious of, man. Like, I wouldn't put it past him to score 30.
And
I'll be honest.
I think that like if Backstrom comes back, hopefully, and when Wilson comes back, I think that will only add to his. I think that will only add to his game in the sense that if Backstrom comes back, he's moved to the wing. If Wilson comes back, he might get some time with Wilson. I mean, injuries suck, but I'm hopeful, and hopefully things work out. Anyway, Cristian, what are you hopeful for your 10?
All right, my 10%, another team-oriented one. I think all three of mine have been team-oriented, but I've hit you guys with this take before. It was only once, so we'll see if you guys remember. But I low-key think that the Preds might be your 2023 President's I was going to say President's Choice. President's Choice, come sponsor the podcast. They're going to be your President Trophy winners this year.
We'll take
it. And Nashville's handing out chicken nuggets at the end of this year.
If
sponsor on New Jersey, eh? No.
For anybody listening in America, President's Choice is a really great brand that we have up here for groceries and stuff. Like, can't beat them.
They make real good cookies. That's all I gotta say on that. Okay, to the Presidents. So Nashville. Okay, they got a ton of depth up front. Like I think it's really flown under the radar. Like these guys added Nino Niederreiter. Like people forget that it was very low key, but he's gonna be in their top 6. I know they had maybe not career highs, but they had bounce back seasons from Ryan Johansson and Matt Duchene, and we don't necessarily know if you can count on that. But I like some of their younger guys. Phil Tomasino is one of the guys that was in and out of the top six. He probably gets another chance. Maybe not in the top six because of the depth they have, but I think he's a possible breakout candidate. We've been waiting forever for Eli Tolvanen to show his full potential. There's a possibility of that. And then they've got a bit of sandpaper too. Tanner Jeannot was a big fan favorite. One of the low-key dark horses in the Calder race last year. We know he throws the body, brings a little bit of sandpaper. And same can be said about Yakov Trenin. Obviously, like, I'm digging real in the depths here. Yakov Trenin, people might not even know, but this guy scored 17 goals last year. He didn't have many points. I think he finished with like 24. But those are the type of guys that you need a little bit of sandpaper, but he also scored some goals. I think he scored a couple big playoff goals in their first round series against Colorado. And in mentioning that, part of the reason I've got some confidence in him is we know UC Saros, when he's on his game, when he's healthy, he's a fringe top 10 NHL goaltender, honestly. He's up in the 918s, possibly 920s when he's playing a full season. So I've got no worries with Saros. And then in terms of backup, they brought in Kevin Lankinen, who has been up and down in his brief time in the NHL. But going back to that Avalanche series, we saw that Connor Ingram can fill in if needed. So they've got a bit of injury insurance. And then the biggest reason I've got some faith in the Preds here is that blue line. Another underrated move, the McDonough trade, where they didn't really have to give up much. But you look at that blue line. We're talking Yossi, who obviously put up, what he put up, 96 points. Incredible. Matthias Ekholm, who's been one of those low-key guys that just dependable, gives you 20 minutes, great on the advanced stats, gives you 40 points a year. McDonough, as we mentioned, he's probably going to have a reduced role, which is good for him and good for the Preds. He probably can really maximize in that role. They've also got Alexander Carrier. He's a more underrated guy, a little bit in the mold of Sam Girard, because, you know, the Preds just turn out these guys like it's nothing. And so, yeah, they've got some really, really solid depth on D. And that's my main reasoning that I've got them winning the President's Trophy.
I will say that I do see your points. For a 10, I think it's a little bit high. I think it's more of a 2, 3, 4-ish percentage, just because of the fact that the Avs do exist. Like, I don't know.
And the Lightning.
Yeah,
I don't know about Lightning.
Lightning.
I thought you like the coast earlier, you know?
There
But
are
hey.
a couple of teams that just, I think, outright smash standings much better than the Preds. And just based off that, I can't give it more than a 5% chance, 4% chance. But for a 10, yeah, I guess I could see it. Dave?
I'll give you a small rebuttal. Last year, did we think Florida President's Trophy last year?
I've been on Florida. I've been high on Barkov and stuff and Huberdeau for like years now.
Yeah,
like, legitimately.
Brian's been saying about Barkov since he got drafted. I think honestly, it's been a few years.
I don't know. Like, I think it was due to happen eventually, and I wasn't too surprised about Florida like going into the season.
I'll take it on the chin. I'll take it.
I think personally that's less like Florida. I don't think they even broke out because like they made the playoffs the year before. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's less shocking if they win the President's Trophy than if Nashville kind of comes around and wins the President's Trophy in this current NHL climate. So I'm sorry if I cut you off before, Brian, but like I'm also kind of in the same boat as him, where I'm like, you know, I'm at 5% is my absolute maximum. And that's not to say that I actually do like the pieces that Nashville have. Like, all the points you mentioned above are very strong. Like, you know, for a team that, you know, made it to the Cup final, where they lost almost that's almost now 10 years ago, probably, give or take. You know, for a team to, like, you know, they had a couple of years where they, you know, they had to rebuild. They kind of slowly did that through the draft and through some savvy signings, stuff like that. They had Saros waiting in the wings after Pekka Rinne left. I think that they're definitely on the right path to making moves in the future, though, 100%. And I could see where they're going, and I see your reasoning behind it, Christian. Maybe in a couple of years, like, you know, that pick maybe this year doesn't look that great, but maybe in a couple of years, man, you know, they could be a tough team.
Fair. Dave, hit him with the brutal 10, the one that you have.
All right.
Yeah,
let me just stretch out for this one. Everybody brace onto something right now because the Arizona Coyotes are making the playoffs this year.
All
Christian,
right,
don't spit
guys.
out that water. Keep
It
it in
was
your
not
mouth.
for me to drink the water as you said that. A little bit in the nose. A little bit in the nose.
All right, guys.
Keep
We need a
that
new
water
host.
in your mouth, Christian.
Anybody
Better than my
looking for a
mom.
job?
Listen, I'll hold my hand up here and say that it is not the greatest take I've ever had, but I'll plant my flag in Arizona right now. Arizona's playing in a very, very difficult situation this year. They quite literally have everything going against them. What could go wrong for them has been going wrong for them. And that just makes their story even better. As mentioned before, they have one goalie on their roster right now, which is I'm gonna call him Vejmelka Zezina. You know what I mean? He's playing 80. He's playing 82 games this year, guys. He's gonna carry the team on his back. Listen, they're gonna get a second goalie here. They're gonna have to, or else they're not gonna be able to play in the NHL this year. Their core doesn't look as strong as some people wanted it to look a couple years ago. Losing somebody like Strome a few years back. It's been a real rough ride for the Coyotes, and now going to play at ASU is not going to be a good look for them. But if anybody's going to be a Cinderella story, it's going to be Clayton Keller, Nick Schmaltz. The ghost of Andrew Ladd's corpse is still on the books. And you got potentially
Oh my God.
what could be a story of the year here. Nick Ritchie with 14 points in 24 games last year. Listen,
David.
I'll be the first one. I'll be the first one to say he did not look right. He did not look right playing on the Leafs first line. But if he finds his niche and he finds his spots, like he was a top. Christian, correct me if I'm wrong, but he was a top 20 draft pick before. Am I
I
right?
believe so too. I think so too.
I believe Don Cherry can.
Listen.
So yes.
Listen, guys. Like for as much as we want to trash the Coyotes, and they definitely have enough reasons to trash them already. I'm all in on. I like the underdogs. I like the Cinderella stories. I think it makes more compelling watch. Like it makes a more compelling watch. And why not? Throw $10 on the Arizona Coyotes to make the playoffs this
I'll take
year.
you for
With
that one.
I'm not going to name any sports books because we're not sponsored by any of them. But if you are a sports book and you're going to listen to this, hit us up, and you could get more.
You know me, transfer.
You could definitely get much more hot takes from me. Again, clip this up when I'm wrong, inevitably at the end of the year. But listen, we mentioned it before, and I said I would save it to the end here. All the reasons that you mentioned about Arizona before are completely right, which is going to make their story even better when they eventually do make the playoffs.
Okay, I will go first.
What do you guys have to say with that?
I'll go first for this one.
Lay into me, Brian.
I'm actually not gonna dig it into that bad. I think that we all know that this is a 10% prediction. I think it's a little bit high by about 10%. but if it happens, I'm happy for you, Dave. If it happens, buy a lottery ticket. Christian, I'll pass it off to you.
I mean, listen, Dave, it's brave as hell, and I like the prediction just because it means we get to track this all year and see who the hell is right with my 90% take and your 10%. So I'm looking forward to that. I do agree with you that it's going to be a unique environment, and because of that, we might see something that we didn't expect. The obvious comparison is Vegas, right? The Misfits, that whole identity. They had an incredible home crowd. I remember watching that first Vegas game, and I said, holy crap, like that's one hell of a crowd. So on the off chance that they can produce that at Mullet Arena, which is 10 out of 10 name, I don't even think like it was intentional. I think it was one of the donors that like helped build the arena or whatever. That's where that comes from, but incredible name. So if they can pounce on this opportunity to make it a unique experience, I could definitely see the players embracing it. But that being said, yeah, I think they're going to be a lot closer to 32 than 16. But I'm looking forward to keeping track of that.
So next year we're going to play 90, 50, 10, and impossible.